Although Golden Trophy is the easiest of Rec Room's quest lineup, it can be difficult to complete, especially if you're a new player and it's your first time checking out the quests playlist. This is probably the reason why I clicked on this video. You want to get better at Golden Trophy and was looking for help. Well, look no further, as this video will teach you everything you need to know to beat this quest. Once the game has started, you and your team will be teleported to the first room. Don't worry, there's no enemies yet, just select the weapons you want to bring with you moving forward. You can always sort them out as you make your way through the dungeon. The weapons on offer are bows, swords, and shields, which are all the easiest to use but can be difficult to master. The hardest weapon to master is obviously the bow, which has this mechanic called double shooting. Yes, it's exactly as the name says it is. You can shoot 2 arrows in the same time it would normally take to shoot 1. Of course, I'll link a video to someone making a better tutorial on this because I'm useless at it. But once you've gathered all your weapons, you should head over to the mat and grab the door to start the quest. Please, for my sake, grab the mat. The mat is a real pain if people don't stand in it, and I don't want to stand there for 20 minutes waiting for you to figure it out. Thank you. In this quest, you encounter all of the game's more simple to fight enemies, all of which are of the goblin variety. That's right, no mouse spots to traumatize you here. I can still hear those beeps, by the way. I hate them. That said, these enemies are not a walk in the park. It will take time and skill to be able to pull this off effectively. The first enemy you'll encounter is known as the melee goblin, who carries a sword and is usually found as part of a larger group. These guys are pretty useless, and a good sword blow or a few well-placed arrows can easily handle them. Just make sure that you don't let them overwhelm you with their numbers, especially if you're doing this quest solo. For the most part, they're brainless and will just walk in straight lines, and if I'm being honest, their biggest enemy is probably themselves. Another enemy you encounter is known as the Imp, also known as the Flyer. These guys are a pain for sword users. This is because they'll attack the player with fireballs from a distance, making the bow the most effective weapon here. Despite that, it's still possible to dodge their fireballs and strike them with your sword if you so desire. Once you hit them once, they'll fall out of the air and be stunned for a few seconds, allowing you to properly finish them off. Now, we'll be moving on to the stronger enemies. The first one is the Barrow Knight, who has a high amount of health and can only be struck from behind. They'll charge at you with a frontal attack, but once they do this, they'll be stunned for a few seconds. This is when you should strike them, but beware, they will try to turn around once you do to protect their weak spot. To work around this, you should simply swap with them and try your best to stay behind them whilst continuously hitting their weak spot until they eventually die. Whatever you do, stay away from cramped spaces while fighting these guys. Funnily enough, you can smash a pot into these guys and send them flying into lava if you so desire. You can also use a shield to lightly nudge them. You also encounter a goblin type known as the Elites. You can tell when you're fighting an elite goblin because of their red skin colour as opposed to the usual green that you'll find on the regular types. The weakest one is the regular elite goblin, which is an elite form of the basic goblin. They have a higher health pool than usual and will attack and move a lot faster. If you can't double shoot, I would suggest using a sword or two to swiftly deal with them. Double swording is probably the most useful thing here. You can just hit them both at the same time and they'll probably die instantly. The next elite type is an elite version of the Imp, probably known as the Elite Imp. As well as having a higher health, attack and movement speed, these guys also change their attack pattern. As opposed to using one fireball at a time, they will fire 5 in a spread out formation, making it harder to dodge. Luckily, these guys are still stunned by hitting them out of the air, so you can just easily finish them off afterwards. You'll also encounter an elite Barrow Knight, which is a real pain in the backside, to be completely honest with you. And they'll follow the trend of being faster and having more health. Unfortunately, they have a new attack pattern, just like the Elite Imp, which makes them really difficult to deal with in my opinion, especially if you're a sword user. Although you can still kill it by hitting it in its back, this enemy is smart and it will spin around with its axe in its hand in an attempt to defend itself. The best way to deal with them is by being quick. Every time you are able to land a hit, they'll be stunned, allowing you to hit them again. At least, that's what it looks like to me anyway when I'm playing the game. Finally, there's the Goblin King, who is the boss of the entire quest and will be seen protecting the loot at the end. He has significantly more health than any other goblin in the dungeon, and has a few ways to attack the player. There's a giant axe which he uses when the player gets close to him, and a cannon for when the player is out of melee range. He'll also summon plenty of minions throughout the fight that you'll have to fend off. Just like the Barrow Knights, he also has a weak spot that can be found on his back, which the player will need to attack. The best way to deal with this is the double shield technique. Although this method requires a minimum of 2 people, it is the easiest method to deal with the boss. As the name suggests, one player will hold 2 shields, and the other will need a bow. The player with the shields will place themselves in front of the boss, and absorb all of the damage whilst the player with the bow shoots this weak spot. Just make sure that the shield user is in the correct position, or it will be game over. Also, double shooting is very useful here, and if you're not on VR so you can't double shoot in the slightest, I'd suggest using 2 crossbows as they have a high damage output. Another room I see a lot of players struggle with is the dreaded library section. In Act 6, the 6th room in the dungeon, you'll find yourself in a library. Usually, this isn't so bad. Perhaps you can read a book or two. Wrong! This library has claimed many victims, and if you're not careful, you'll be next. So, how do you survive this place? When you first enter the room, you'll be greeted by a lot of bookshelves in front of you. Well, surprise surprise, you can actually jump on them. This will save you from the seemingly endless swarm of goblins that will be gathered beneath you. However, you should be careful that imps will be actively shooting at you, so it's best to focus them down first. You'll also run into both elite and regular versions of the goblins, so expect the worst from this room. And to top it all off, it's quite cramped, and you keep running into things, and I really wish there weren't as many books as there are. People say knowledge is power, but in this situation, it just ruins your life. Honestly, it sucks. Now that you have successfully beaten all of the challenges that this quest has to offer you, it's time to claim your reward at the end of the dungeon. You and your teammates will all get a chest, each containing a cosmetic item depending on the rank you manage to get. Sorry for all you pros out there, because if you've gotten all the cosmetics in the game, guess what you'll be getting? It's film. Your rank is determined by how many points you and your team scored by killing goblins and smashing pots. You'll lose points when somebody in your team is downed. The ranks are as follows: S, A, B, and C, with S being the highest and C being the lowest. The two sets available are the Archer set and the Knight set, which can be obtained in a variety of colours to suit the player's needs. Hopefully you guys now have a better understanding of Golden Trophy and the mechanisms within it. With this knowledge, you should be able to beat the quest without any problems. Well, that's if you don't get any trolls as teammates that will do anything to sabotage you. I covered that topic in a previous video, which can be found here. If you enjoyed what you saw, make sure to like, comment and subscribe for more content, and I will see you next time.